Well, here we are again, Packers fans, as Green Bay's season once again comes to an end in devastating fashion in a game that they do not look one bit prepared to play. So, on this afternoon, I wanted to share a few of my quick thoughts about this really disappointing performance that eliminates Packers from the postseason. And I was going to film this video late last night, but unlike Quay Walker, I wanted to keep my emotions in check, and I realized that would probably be a bad idea. So while my emotions are still not at the best place, still processing some of the events that happened last night, I feel like I'm in a better place now to give some of my thoughts about this game. Still in that anger, so thoughts are still fresh. Starting off with the overarching theme of the Packers' playoff performances the last 4 years is that they do not look prepared at all. Despite what Aaron Rodgers said earlier this week that he promises they'll be ready, that was not the result. Did not look ready in 2019 against the 49ers, and the Packers were well outmatched in that championship game, but Mike Pettin, I don't know if he watched a single piece of film that week. In 2020, every single player probably has their worst game of the season against Tampa Bay. In 2021, Aaron Rodgers plays really bad again. They're out without David Bakhtiari again, really struggle. And then here we are again. It's Groundhog Day. You know, some of that is on the players just not being ready. But what I think is kind of telling about this whole situation is obviously the play last night, but also the actions of Quay Walker and Rasul Douglas. Quay Walker pushing over a member of the Detroit Lions medical staff as he is trying to assist an injured DeAndre Swift is unbelievable. If Quay cannot keep his emotions checked, and I know this is a very intense moment, but if you cannot realize the consequences that your actions will have in the fourth quarter with the season on the line, man, that is rough. That is rough. And I'm sure this is not what was on the top of Quay's mind at that moment, but I mean, the Buffalo Bills medical staff just saved a player's life 7 days ago. So the timing of that is even more ridiculous. You have that, and you have Rasul Douglas punching a player and costing the Packers 15 yards on a Lions field goal. And, you know, it might have been a very different game if the Lions didn't have those 3 points before half. So I think those are very telling. And, you know, Matt LaFleur said after the game that he sees those personal fouls as a reflection of him. And I completely agree with that. If you cannot coach your players to be prepared in that moment, to not have a sense of self-control in that moment, that is certainly a reflection of you and your coaching staff. And this trend where the offense comes out completely flat, I mean, both sides really, in playoff games is very concerning. Now to the play specifically, let's start off with Aaron Rodgers, who once again did not show up in the big moment. And, you know, there was this sentiment, this narrative, if you will, in around 2019, 2020 that was very popular, that Aaron Rodgers was a playoff choker. And at that point in time, before 2019, 2020 playoffs, I probably would have agreed, or I would have disagreed with that. Would have strongly disagreed with that. I would have said, you know, in 2016, his defense, you know, he had a Ladarius Gunter going on prime Julio Jones. So his defense let him down there. Special teams and defense let him down in 2014. So I wouldn't agree that he was a playoff choker. But at this point, I mean, I wouldn't say he's the choker, but he does not play well in the playoffs. I think it was Adam Schefter last week said, oh, you don't want to let Aaron Rodgers and the Packers get hot going into the playoffs. It's like, are we sure teams should be feared of Aaron Rodgers in January at this point? I know this was only their second loss under Matt LaFleur in December and January, but are we sure we should be so scared of Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs? His last good performance in a playoff game was 2020 against the Rams. Outside of that, it has not been great. And obviously you do have to look outside of Rodgers. There is other players that played into his bad performance. A lot of his pass catchers didn't show up besides Christian Watson, really. Offensive line really struggled with Aiden Hutchinson and a few other really good pass rushers for Detroit. But at the same time, this whole franchise revolves around Aaron Rodgers for better or worse. He's being paid $50 million year after year, and he cannot show up in the fourth quarter with the season on the line. One thing on Rodgers, I know, and he definitely played into this last night, as he loves to do, the retirement saga that is going to ensue over these next 2 or 3 months. I would not pay attention to any article that says he is going to stay, he's going to go, he's going to get traded, because if you listen to what he said last night, he really has no clue. He knows just as much about the decision as he's going to make as we do right now. So calm down, take it smoothly. Whatever happens, happens. Go with the flow. Other than that, as we look ahead to this offseason, I think you look at the biggest needs of this Packers team being another playmaker on offense and probably the safety position. I liked Darnell Savage probably a lot more than other people. We saw in this game against Detroit and a few other games late in the season what he can be, what works with him, what doesn't, but he is clearly not a free safety or a strong safety, not any type of safety in the NFL. Adrian Amos has certainly taken a step down, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So got to get a safety. At least, I want somebody in free agency and at least 2 or 3 in the draft as well. But, they do have Rudy Ford. Switching things over to the defensive side of the ball. Look, I don't think you can be too mad at this defense. They held the Lions to pretty low amount of the points until the fourth quarter. Didn't get the turnovers that they got in Minnesota and against Miami. But they did what they could. The offense did not show up at all. If you're going to be a playoff team, your offense should be able to score more than 20 points, and they didn't. I mean, this was a really good Lions offense coming in, a really terrible Lions defense. Weren't able to take advantage of the defense, but the Packers defense held the Lions offense to 20 points. Jamal Williams had a great day, unfortunately. But other than that, it was not a great game or a standard game from this Lions offense that we've seen in the second half of the season. Now, I know there will be plenty of people calling for Joe Barry's job, which is understandable, but he certainly showed a lot in that 4-game winning streak. Matt LaFleur clearly is a fan of him, so I would not be counting on Matt LaFleur to fire Joe Barry. For a playmaker on offense, I don't care if it's wide receiver, running back, tight end, just another playmaker. Because Christian Watson is carrying a lot of the load. Aaron Jones has a big cap hit coming up. And they just need something else. Allen Lazard did not provide what we expected him of the season. Same with Sammy Watkins, for God's sake. They just need somebody else on that offense. Other than that, that's where I'm going to end it for today. We'll talk to you guys later. I'm excited for this offseason for sure. Me and Big B both, thank you so much if you watched any piece of content from Underage Packers this season. And that wraps it up for our third regular season covering the team. Yeah, third regular season covering the team unprofessionally on this little thing. So thank you all for tuning in to our content. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later. Still, as always, go Pack, go.